About 2 weeks ago, I saw the check engine light come on my car, and I went to AutoZone, and they got this code P0135, which is the oxygen sensor, and it's Bank 1 Sensor 1. I have a 2005 Impala with the 3.4 liter engine, and I'm going to show you how to get that out and replace it. So the first thing I did is open the hood, come over here to the battery, and loosen the black cable, the negative cable, so that you don't get a shock or anything when you're working near electric. Okay, so that is unhooked there. So the oxygen sensor has an electrical harness. If you go from the battery under the coolant, here's the alternator, and right back under here you want to unhook this sensor, this harness. You can pick that right up, and there's a clip here which you just want to unclip. I'll show you here in a second. So there, it's unclipped. You can do it with a screwdriver. I actually just used my finger and grabbed this piece and kind of pulled it up until it unhooked. So that came off in about 10 seconds. Then the oxygen sensor is attached down below. You can see it down there. Let's see if I can point to it with my finger. This is it. It looks like a spark plug, the end of a spark plug. I hit it with PB Blaster for a couple days, and then I'll show you which wrench I used to get it off. Okay, so here's the oxygen sensor Crowfoot wrench, which I got at AutoZone for about $10. 7/8 inch, 22 millimeter, 6-point design. It's just this simple thing right here, and this worked well. And I took my socket wrench here, attached an extension, which I don't know, it's about 3 inches. Just added that extension on, and then on the end of the extension I put a half inch drive here. Whoops. Okay, so there's a 1/2 inch driver, and that 1/2 inch driver I put some tape on the end so that it wouldn't fall out of the oxygen sensor wrench when I put that on. It goes right in the star hole there. And here's the finished contraption, which I used to get the oxygen sensor out. Just a socket wrench, this extension piece, and then widen it out to a 1/2 inch driver bit, which has a little tape in it to stick more to the oxygen sensor wrench. Now I'll get under the engine. So I kind of had it so that the angle is like this, and maneuvered it past all of this stuff. All of this stuff, you can tell I'm not a mechanic, but I still figured out how to do this. So what I did is I kind of moved this rubber piece here, and there's my wrench, which I maneuvered in there. Had to use the oxygen sensor wrench hole fitted over the oxygen sensor piece, just down there, and I'm going to use a piece of pipe here on the end of my wrench so I can get some more leverage. I'll show you that in a second. Okay, so I kind of angled this socket wrench so that it reaches outside. It doesn't hit the spark plugs. That extension gets it past just enough room, and then I'm going to turn it towards the driver's side until it cranks loose, which I did this a couple days ago, so it should be pretty easy. Okay, so despite the fact that I did this a couple days ago, it was still a little hard to get out. You have to shoot some PB Blaster on it for a couple days, but I guess over a couple days it heated up, but I finally got it so that it came out. It wasn't that difficult, but now I just have to loosen it and get it off. Okay, so after using the socket wrench, didn't take much where you can loosen it with your hand, and this is the end. The business end, there's the bolt that you had to loosen with the oxygen wrench, and then it comes down here to the harness part, which I tested this with a multimeter, and use at your own risk. I didn't get any circuit between some of these prongs, any of them. So I think there's something wrong with this one. Obviously the check engine light came on. We're going to replace it with a new one. And I got this one from Rock Auto online. It took about 3 days shipping. Here it is. The new harness. It comes with a plastic tip over the business end. And they say they put the anti-seize lubricant on here. I've got some just in case. We'll see if they do or if they don't. Then I just have to screw this in, plug in the harness, and hopefully the check engine light's off. Okay, I took the cap off. I can't tell. It looks like there's anti-seize on there. I'll put some more because I don't want it to be trouble if I ever have to take it off again. Another caution, be careful you don't drop this. You don't want anything to happen to this end here, so I'm going to make sure it's in my Crowfoot wrench, the oxygen sensor wrench, good so that I don't damage it when putting it in. Here's the anti-seize, which costs $1.49. I'm going to put that on the threads only, not the tip. And on second thought, I think I'll just hand screw this, hand tighten it by hand first so that I don't bang that end sensor. Then I'll use the socket wrench to tighten it. Okay, I think this is bank 1 sensor 1. Yeah, there's only 2 on this car from what I figure, so at your own risk. 3.4 liter 2005 Impala. The 3.4 liters have 2. One before the catalytic converter upstream, which is this one, bank 1 sensor 1, and then the downstream one would be the other one on the other side of the converter, more towards the back of the car, not in the engine. So I'll hook this electric up. I simply take the harness, match up these 2 sections until they snap together. Okay, now I'll hook the battery up and see if the check engine light's off. It might be because the battery's off. I'll have to drive it for 20 minutes or so and see if it comes back on. Okay, so that couldn't have taken all the 20 minutes even with the camera. The hardest part was getting the sensor off over a 2-day period. Just spray it with PB Blaster. And the sensor is right behind, you know, the back spark plugs down in there. You'll see it looks like a spark plug. Okay, here's the PB Blaster. So if you're not familiar, you know what the can looks like. I took a straw. I'm not sure if this was from WD-40 or brake fluid cleaner, and put it on the end, although it says you don't need a straw. This tiny straw fit. The WD-40 straw didn't. I think this came from brake cleaner or something, but I washed it, put it on the end, sprayed that thing a lot. Still got more than half the can left though. So let's turn it on. See if the check engine light comes on. Okay, looks good because the car starts and there's no light. So hopefully we run this for 20 minutes or so. It's done this before when I took it out to make sure I could get it out before I ordered the new sensor. The check engine light went off if the battery was unhooked for 40 minutes or so. So just to test, we'll have to drive it around for 30 minutes today and see if it comes back on. Okay, it's been a couple days. I've driven probably 100 miles. The check engine light's off. Everything's good. Here's the oxygen sensor wrench I got from AutoZone. It was $10. And I kept saying I was using a 1/2-inch driver, but this is actually 3/8-inch driver. That's why I had to put the tape on it. This is part, this oxygen sensor wrench is part number 25249 at AutoZone. So if you use a 1/2-inch driver, you won't need to use the masking tape. A 3/8-inch driver, masking tape so it won't fall off. Be careful when you're turning this to get the oxygen sensor off. You don't want to strip that oxygen sensor inside the hole or you'll really be in trouble. So it took me a couple days using PB Blaster. Use your own judgment. You have to yank pretty hard to get it off, but take care not to break that. So it wasn't as hard as I thought. Finally, this is the receipt from Rock Auto. I don't want to show you all this, but it's a APWI is the sensor I got. It cost $29.63 after shipping, and it took 3 days to get here from California to Michigan. And it wasn't the same brand as the oxygen sensor I had in my car, so sometimes they say you may want to get the same brand. I just got the cheapest one and it worked. Yours might not. I just have to caution you there. So all in all, it's a pretty nice project. Wasn't too difficult, just had made my mind up I was going to try it, and it worked.